Springfield Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting is called to order. Please stand and we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start our meeting tonight, I would like to congratulate Alderman Hubbard. He received the Diamond Award, cum laude. It's the highest award for the National City Leagues. And I'd like to congratulate you on behalf of the City of Springfield. Thank you. We'll get started. 1.2. The approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen held on February 19th, 2019. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any corrections? No corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Now we will go to our public hearings. 1.3. Our first public hearing is Ordinance 19-03, an ordinance rezoning one lot, a total of 1.01 acres, located at Bradley Drive in the 9th Civil District from MRO Multiple Residential and Office Districts to CS Commercial Services. If there's anyone that would like to speak for this public hearing, please come to the mic. You have 2 minutes to speak, and please state your name. Anyone like to speak? The public hearing is closed. Our second public hearing, APM1 Inc., doing business as Express Liquors at 2023 Memorial Boulevard, application for the certificate of compliance for retail alcohol beverage stores. Please come to the mic if you would like to speak. If no one would like to speak, the public hearing is closed. Now, our third public hearing, MSM1 Inc., doing business as Warehouse Liquors, located at 1000 South Brown Street, application for certificate of compliance for retail alcohol beverage store. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. If not, the public hearing is closed. 2.1, discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 19-01 on the third and final reading. An ordinance rezoning 2 lots, a total of 3.46 acres, located on Bradley Drive in the 9th Civil District from MRO Multiple Residential and Office District to RI Restrictive Industrial. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. This is our third and final reading. Any questions? All ordinances have to be have a third and final reading, so we've discussed this one probably to death. No discussion. Call the roll, please.
Harris.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 2.2, discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 19-02 on a third and final reading. An ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 1 of the City of Springfield's Municipal Code entitled Intoxicating Liquors and Title 8, Chapter 2 entitled Beer to read as set forth in Exhibit A. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 2.3, discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 19-03 on a second reading. An ordinance rezoning 1 lot, a total of 1.01 acres, located on Bradley Drive in the 9th Civil District from MRO Multiple Residential and Office Districts to CS Commercial Services. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.4, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-04 on a first reading. An ordinance rezoning 3 parcels and the right-of-way located on New Hope Lane. 1 parcel and a right-of-way to be rezoned from R20 Residential District to RI Restrictive Industrial District, and 2 parcels and a right-of-way to be rezoned from CG Commercial General Districts to RI Restricted Industrial Districts. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
Ms. Brickles?
Ordinance 1904, an ordinance rezoning 3 parcels and right-of-way located on New Hope Lane. 1 parcel and right-of-way to be rezoned from R20 Residential District to RI Restrictive Industrial District, and 2 parcels and right-of-way to be rezoned from CG Commercial General District to RI Restrictive Industrial District. Whereas Excel Real Estate LLC has requested approximately .95 acre, a total of 1 parcel, owned by Excel Real Estate LLC and right-of-way located on New Hope Lane and unnamed right-of-way to be rezoned from R20 Residential District to RI Restrictive Industrial District. Excel Real Estate LLC has also requested approximately 6.3 acres, a total of 2 parcels, owned by Excel Real Estate LLC and right-of-way located on New Hope Lane and unnamed right-of-way be rezoned from CG Commercial General District to RI Restrictive Industrial District. Whereas the Springfield Planning Commission has reviewed the request and voted with a favorable recommendation for this property to be rezoned. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. 1 parcel totaling approximately .75 acres owned by Excel Real Estate LLC located on New Hope Lane, Tax Map 92I, Group A, Parcel 1 of the tax maps of Robertson County, Tennessee, and right-of-way located on New Hope Lane and unnamed right-of-way approximately .2 acres, and being more fully described by Exhibit A attached, are hereby rezoned from R20 Residential District to RI Restrictive Industrial District. 2 parcels totaling approximately 5.63 acres owned by Excel Real Estate LLC located on New Hope Lane, Tax Map 92I, Group A, Parcel 2.01 of the tax maps of Robertson County, Tennessee, and Tax Map 92H, Group E, Parcel 17 of the tax maps of Robertson County, Tennessee, and the right-of-way located on New Hope Lane and unnamed right-of-way approximately .67 acre, and being more fully described by Exhibit B attached, are hereby rezoned from CG Commercial General District to RI Restrictive Industrial District. This zoning shall become effective following its 3rd and final passage as required by law.
Thank you. Gentlemen, questions? It's nice to see our commercials, businesses growing.
Yes, ma'am.
It's exciting. No questions? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-05 on a first reading. An ordinance amending the fiscal year 2019 annual budget for the City of Springfield by amending certain general funds and utility funds operating budget. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any questions to Ms. Holt?
I need to read it.
Oh, I'm sorry, you do need to read it. Thank you for keeping me straight.
Ordinance 1905, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2019 annual budget for the City of Springfield by amending certain general fund and utility fund operating budgets. Whereas it is necessary to amend the City of Springfield annual budget for fiscal year 2019 in order to meet the requirements of the city charter. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee, that the City of Springfield annual budget for fiscal year 2019 is hereby amended to make necessary changes to expenditures and revenues within the funds and departments as set forth in Exhibit A attached. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Thank you. Questions now? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Sneed. Gregg. Harris.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.6, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 19-09, a resolution revising the policy for abandonment and subsequent sale or transfer of the right-of-way belonging to the City of Springfield. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Sneed. Harris.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg. Head.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.7, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 19-10, a resolution revising threshold of capitalization of equipment for the City of Springfield. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Greg. Questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Harris.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed. Gregg. Head.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustment of the retail electric rates for the Springfield Electric Department due to the wholesale fuel cost adjustments by the Tennessee Valley Authority. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner?
There's a 3.7% decrease this month.
Thank you.
Aye, Travis.
I like that. We better call the roll real quick. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Gregg. Sneed. Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the monthly gas rate for the Springfield Gas Department. Mr. Riddle, I hope you're in the same direction.
We need a motion.
PGA is down 14.12%.
Okay.
Okay? Motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
I'm just making sure y'all awake. I did it a little different. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg. Passed 7-0.
3.3, discuss and possible take action to approve offers on surplus properties acquired via the delinquent tax sales. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holt? Or is this Mr. Martin? He looks like he's...
Well, if there are any questions, it's a standard procedure that we've been using every month. We've been bringing these to you. One thing that Mr. Martin can answer is we have not closed on any of these properties yet, but we're getting very close, I think, right?
Right.
Our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Ryan Martin.
So the county finally approved the ones that we were waiting on that you all had approved, and there are about 23 of them, I think, that we've done so far. And
I don't think the mic's on.
oh, okay, yeah, there we go. So we're getting ready to close pretty quickly. So we'll see a change and get ready to move pretty quickly on those. And I'll be contacting the offerors and getting those things wrapped up through Chancery Court. So we're excited. It took the county a little bit to get their process moving, but at the February meeting, they approved all of our offers. They haven't rejected anything that we've sent over. So the process is working pretty well.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg. Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Passed 7-0.
3.4, discuss and possible take action to approve a certificate of compliance for the following liquor stores. Number 1, APM1 Inc., doing business as Express Liquor. Second one, MSM1 Inc., doing business as Warehouse Liquors. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
These businesses are being sold. So.
Yes. Questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Sneed. Gregg. Harris.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 3.5, Report on the debt obligation form CT 0253, which reports on the $9 million Amendment 1 to the State Revolving Fund Loan Agreement that was issued on February the 8th, 2019. Of course, no action is required. We have to report this. Do you have any questions?
What was the dollar figure you said?
It's 19 million.
19 million.
19. I thought you said 9.
She did.
I thought I said 19, but okay. Thank you for correcting me if I was wrong. Okay. Moving on, 3.6 is going to be postponed till next month. 3.7, discuss and possible take action to approve an easement for Project 2C. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holt, do you want to talk
Well,
about
it's
this?
just one easement. We haven't had one in a while, and it's for the 2C project and $2,700. So we would recommend that you go ahead and approve it.
Okay. Questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed. Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.8, discuss and possible take action to ratify the emergency replacement of the digester blower at the wastewater treatment plant. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Don't ask me what that is. We'll ask Mr. Beers if you need to know. Any questions?
I'll say that it will be paid from operating. Obviously, it was not budgeted, but we will be paying for it from the operating.
Okay. We have a first and a second. Okay. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg. Pass 7-0.
3.9, discuss and possible take action on a request from Alderman Hubbard regarding the state of the school system in Springfield. Do I hear a motion to discuss? Do I hear?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. I'll be brief. 10 years ago, we started a process of desegregation, a process of trying to get our school system functioning at that time from being the last in the state of Tennessee. But I read a discouraging article a month ago that still say that we're 44% remedial reading, 40% remedial math. The teacher ratio is not as adequate as it should be. Specialty courses and stuff are not really up to par. And this troubles me because, number one, we're trying to set a precedence that we're going to be in a well-educated city schools. That's where my argument is, that we're going to be well-educated city schools. As people move in, first thing they want to ask is how the school system. So we would just like to inform you that some talking to the county commissioners as well as the Board of Education about making sure they fund the school and give the superintendent of schools, who's trying, adequate money that he needs, okay? And I'm really upset that that it hadn't been met and that we're still in the same position. I won't get into other things, but I initiated this 10 years ago, and believe it or not, I'm still on top of it, okay? So this is coming from me. This is coming from me because loving this city, being an elected official for 30 years, I wanted to be at the top. And the kids are our future, and we are double taxpayers. And that's my argument. So I'll just shut it off right there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hubbard. 3.10, a brief presentation by the Springfield Airport Association, a group of pilots and customers of the Springfield-Robertson County Airport. I'll call on Mr. Paul Shackner to come to the mic. Welcome.
I appreciate you hearing us out today. I know I've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to hit the high points and...
I had started the timer, so you all start now.
All right. So anyway, the reason I'm here, I'm representing not only myself, but there's about 20 or 25 pilots and folks here from Springfield Airport and customers of Wingnuts Aviation. What I'd like to do is address some of the issues. First, talk a little bit about Wingnuts real quickly. We do support Wingnuts Aviation. They have been a great asset to us as pilots, and they have done a great job with the airport as far as managing services and giving us what we need to get, to have our planes there and to enjoy our hobby there. But there are some issues, especially with lately, as everybody knows, there's a lawsuit now with the board is being sued by Wingnuts for breach of contract, and we as pilots, we have some skin in the game here because we're the ones going to be affected by it. We bring a lot of money to the airport. We buy a lot of fuel. We pay our rents. So we feel we should have some input here. On the board right now, there are 7 people. There are no active pilots who have planes that they're flying in and out of the airport over there. There is one board member who owns 2 planes, but he doesn't fly them. They're flown by members of his company. So what we feel as pilots and customers, I've also got, by the way, this is not the folks here, I've got a list of almost 315 names on a petition. There's another 300 plus names since this was signed who have been added to that, and that's available if you'd like to see it. But what I'd like to make known is that as we want to have some input on that board, there's been a lot of problems with the board relating to the way they've been interacting with Wingnuts, and we feel that we should have some input and some representation on that board. So we'd like to try. I know that you guys aren't voting on anything tonight. Ann has mentioned that to me, but you do have the ability to nominate people, and we feel we have a good core of people available at the airport who would like to be on that board. We should have at least a couple of pilots on there who are active, who know the issues, and who can represent us fairly. So with that in mind, I'd ask you guys to consider that when your nominations come up for the next round of people when they need to be replaced on the board. Speaking of the board, there are some issues that have come up that's caused a lot of problems and have created this lawsuit. The board did go behind the backs of the owners of Wingnuts to get one of their employees to get them proprietary data. That data was given to the board, and the board has used that to sort of usurp the position at Wingnuts and to try to replace them. They did. I was at the meeting last week for the negotiating strategy, and there was information given from the person who got that information to the board, and the information was wrong. So my point here is that the board is getting information that's not accurate. It's also disseminating that information to the officials that are not accurate. Talking to the county mayor, I've talked to a couple of other people who are outside the airport, and they're really not getting fed the right information about what's going on at the airport. And we as the pilots are the ones who are really paying the price for that. So we want to make sure that we can get some fair representation on there. There's been collusion at meetings for the board beforehand when the meetings were taking place. They were cited for an illegal meeting. They had to redo that meeting. Again, they voted the same way because it was more or less a rubber-stamped canned meeting because they already knew what they were going to say.
Okay, I have to warn you that we
Okay.
cannot discuss anything that's in a lawsuit.
Okay. I don't know that I have anything from the lawsuit. What I've talked about is, I think it's public knowledge, and I've read about it in the newspapers. So
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that's taboo there. So our point here as pilots, representing the airport or representing our needs and wants at the airport, we feel that there needs to be changes in the board. I think everybody here has heard some of the ramifications about what's gone on. There is a lawsuit, and there shouldn't be. There doesn't need to be a lawsuit. And if Springfield, as a Robertson County resident, I don't want to see any of my tax dollars being paid on a frivolous lawsuit that was brought that didn't need to be brought, whether it's $3,300,000 or $3,000. It shouldn't have happened. And there's a way to stop this, but we need to really get ethical types of ethical behavior going on so that we can have a fair and a balanced meeting at these board meetings, and that the needs and the wants of the people who actually use the airport can be represented. We also need to have to focus on building business at the airport that would be beneficial to everybody in the county because it provides income tax dollars. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, we're moving on now to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen will meet in an executive session, discuss pending litigation. So we are going to adjourn here, go upstairs. The public's welcome to stay and hear the rest of our meeting.
We need to vote to go in executive session to be proper.
Okay.
Move to go in executive session.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay?
Okay, I think we were going to try to have the meeting here and let everybody else leave the room. Oh, you do want to go?
Yeah.
Oh, you changed, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll be back down. Stay
We
around.
have a vote now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's right. We got to vote. Call the roll, please.
Sneed. Harris.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg. Head.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Trotter. Pass 7-0.
Okay, now we can go upstairs. Got the cart before the horse. Call back to order. We will move on to our agenda. 3.11, discuss and possible take action on the request for Alderman Sneed to change ordinance 05-12. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Alderman Sneed.
Mayor, the current city ordinance, and that hopefully if this passes, I'll get with the county so that they can do likewise a careful review of it, lacks certain information that's required by state law. Attach those statutes with the what I proposed to make the changes that were highlighted in red. There's, in addition to what I've highlighted in red, to bring our city ordinance up to where it should be. Between now and the second meeting, assuming this passed, I want y'all to look at this very carefully because one statute relates and ties to the other statute. You have to look at them from the totality of all of them. And there's still information like specifying what authorities need to be written into the ordinance that we're delegating to that board. The only thing that in our current city ordinance that's specified by state law that we delegate deals with surplus property. But I have made I've contended that they've far exceeded that on multiple occasions, and it really didn't rise to the surface. I knew about it several years ago, but they really didn't do a whole lot out there. You know, buy a mower, keep it mowed, change light bulbs, make the pavement. But when they start getting into millions of dollars of grants, bonds, and money, and getting into the kind of expenditure, had to start looking at it a little closer. And whatever we do to this, I hope will be a template for others to look at too. So I spent a lot of time putting this together, and y'all have had 2 weeks to look at it. So I hope that if
Okay.
there's any questions.
Let's start with questions. Any questions for Mr. Sneed about this ordinance?
Why are
Yes,
you-
sir, Mr. Harris.
Go ahead.
Why are you wanting to do away with city residents on this board?
There has been a history of vacancies for extended periods of time, and we need to go outside the boundaries of the city limits, I think, to find qualified people who are interested, because right now, they're in a lawsuit and they're not knocking on the door right now to do this. So we
Okay.
do have some people who want to do this. So hope that answers your question.
Mr. Harris?
Mine was somewhat in the same regard to it. I mean, I can't. We have, how many, we have 2 city appointments or 1?
2 city and 3 joint,
And then the county has what?
2. So we each have 2.
then we have 3
Ours are
joint.
city, within the city limits, theirs are in the county, and then the 3 joints can be either city or county, but it just so happens they're all 3 county.
So if we pass this in,
Yes.
in the format that you're suggesting to do, then possibly all members of that board could be county residents,
Right.
none within the city limits of Springfield.
Well,
That's
there-
correct.
there's a vacancy that I was going to nominate myself, which we can do, at least to get through this impasse. Try to get through, we've got a lot going on down there that I've got a lot of history and knowledge about what's going on. And there's a couple other people who do live in the county, but they could fill in for the city-county positions.
Okay.
I mean, I have no problem with anyone that wants to serve on it as far as they're qualified to serve on it, but with the 2 appointments that we have within the city limits of Springfield, I would think that we would need to keep those established.
You
they
got-
have
you
to
have
be.
anyone, I'm sorry,
Sir,
do you have any nominations?
I do not. My understanding, there may be one when that comes about, but I
Well-
mean, does those recommendations not come to us from the airport board itself?
They do.
They can, but we're the ultimate decider of who's on that board. But I've always had a problem with, and I've told this board, that is the exact problem with that board, is they are picking people like-minded, and it's basically, the only word I can say is it's inbred. They need outside blood in that group, and they can't keep picking their own people. They need they need a shakeup.
Well, and in my opinion, we would be losing our representation when we're paying for part of this airport. We would lose our representation. Mr. Trotter, I know you had a question. I'm sorry. I jumped in.
That's all right. I'm sure the pilots, they would like to have representation on the board. I'm sure there may be a pilot or 2 that lives in the city of Springfield that
Well-
would be qualified to be on that board.
I have asked for the public records of the people who have airplanes there for years. That information is given to the airport board, and they have denied me that public information. I didn't go to a civil action to it, and I've talked to y'all about it. I didn't get any support from y'all about backing me up on a lot of things, so I didn't bring it up to you to try to get it. But the only thing I've been able to get from the airport board was about half of the tail numbers of the planes. I knew there were more planes there than that, because they keep saying there's 100% accuracy, 100% occupancy, but my records request in the past would come up about half of the occupants, just tail numbers. Now, if you wanted to look up those tail numbers, you can find what the tail numbers belong to. That's public information. But I've asked for the names and contact lists so I could contact some people and ask them if they want to be on board. Who is in the city who has planes there?
Well,
I've got the floor, and that's been denied. Now, anything that is turned over to the airport board is public information, and that's an issue. That's part of the lawsuit that's going on right now. This thing's going on. It's Good Old Boys Club, 100%.
So
It needs to be changed.
If we change this board, we will also, in my opinion, have to change the planning board, the VEER board, and all the other boards that we have and open it up to county residents. If you do one, you got to do them all. I pay taxes as well as you pay taxes in the city of Springfield, so they should be represented by the city of Springfield, Mr. Hubbard.
Ms. Snyder, the airport board
I
right
got it,
now.
Mrs. Sneed.
Airport board.
I've called on Mr. Hubbard.
It's my turn now. Yes, sort of echoing what you said. as the 30-year veteran of this board, this is the reason why we establish our boards, so that our boards will be represented by Springfield citizens. And I do not want to change that and open that up to county dominated participant on our board. So I definitely agree with you. We have to change the whole
Okay,
structure.
I'm going to go around the room because we're kind of, Mr. Head, do you have questions?
I do.
Okay.
Question for Clay. The red line proposals here, did you produce this, or was that done by an attorney or somebody with a governmental?
I did that.
You did that? Okay, very good. And these changes that you propose, you're saying that is this the charter or the ordinance that established the board?
The ordinance.
You're saying it's out of sync with state law at this point?
Yes, if you look at the first, here's the current city ordinance, and it says that, let me find it. If you look at this section right here, that right there.
What
that-
section,
that-
Mr. Sneed, so the rest of us can look?
Well,
It's page 2-8.
on the current, that's not in there,
Okay.
but the current ordinance, I didn't want to confuse current with what I proposed. You could pull that up yourself, should have a copy of it to compare what I sent y'all. But what it says right here,
Will you read it to us?
purchase and disposal of personal property and equipment, the Springfield Roberts County Joint Airport Board shall have all the authority vested unto said board by TCA Code 425201. That's not the code to them, that's the code, the state to us. And the codes to them are, as I amended it, it's a creation of the board, but the purchase and disposal, or their authority is actually TCA Code 425204, not 201. That's where their authority comes from. That was listed wrong. And their authority is based under 201, 202, and 203. And, yeah, but all of that is subject to section 42-507. Like I said, you have to look at its entirety. And each state law has other state laws, and I included everything you needed to see in here so you wouldn't have to search anywhere else to look. But if there's an issue, there seems to be some issues with the word city resident, I changed to county. I changed that based on our history of not having people on the board and having long vacancies and not having anybody right now except myself. And then the airport board picked someone else and sent to your office. That's another internal. I don't think we need to put anybody else on that board that was picked from that board. It needs a shake up.
Okay, Mr. Gregg, we're going to go around the room, and I'm going to come back to this side. Mr. Gregg?
There were some things that I read in red that I thought sounded pretty good. But I am not willing to give up our city appointments. And if our ordinance is this much out of whack, we need to let the attorneys go through here and straighten this out.
Well, she's had 2 weeks to look at it, and she's not called me once about this to redirect or anything. But Ms. Barty, do you have any issues with what's on before us tonight, or are we going to put another delay on this?
I do have some issues with the way that your markups are presented, Mr. Sneed. If you all will recall, several months ago, I presented a very, very detailed memo to the board that compared the bylaws, our ordinance, and the code. And all of that document reconciled those three documents and how they worked together. There are a few things that are stylistic changes that I don't agree with. I don't like to reference statutes specifically in case those statute numbers are changed by the legislature. We can use a chapter and the term et sec. For example, if you will look, and this is in the original ordinance, it would be on page 210, where under 2507, we reference Tennessee Code annotated 425201 et sec. And what et sec means is that section of the code and chapter of the code in its entirety is adopted. So, for example, under our current code, we have 425201, 202, 203, 204, and 205. The way it reads now, that entire chapter is incorporated. As I understand from Mr. Sneed's proposed ordinance, he has added a section that would allow for this board to recall its appointees. He's included some language in that. Unfortunately, in my legal opinion, those terms are very subjective. I would like for those to be changed. I have some concerns, as I believe you all do, about the county appointments, the city appointments be changed to county appointments. And I think if we set that precedent, you all have heard me say before that we set policy through sometimes procedure and custom. Once we start here, it may crack the door for our other boards. There is potentially an issue if we allow a county appointee instead of a City of Springfield resident for a conflict of interest. It would be difficult for a resident of, say, Cedar Hill to possibly have the best interest of the City of Springfield at the forefront. Moving through, if you look on the second page of Mr. Sneed's document, the limitations of authority, he references 425204. He does not reference 425203, which give not broad powers, but give specific powers to the board. Essentially, it appears to me that now under the new, or under Mr. Sneed's proposal, that the only thing that the airport board would be allowed to do was deal with personal property.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. I honestly think as you look at 425101 et sec, specifically section 112, it's quite a stretch for us to incorporate these types of changes and set and amend our ordinance. Yes, that does allow the city to set its procedure, which we have done. You all created a joint board back in 1990, and I think some of these changes would have to be made by that joint board because we don't, at this point, have an arm to reach in.
Okay,
Mayor.
now questions to Ms. Barty?
Mayor, I want
Yes.
to redirect. I would like to respond to a lot that
Steve?
she said there that I think was confusing to the board.
She is our city attorney.
Yes.
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 Miss
He's got-
Barty,
Yes, sir.
you got this 2 weeks ago, did
Yes,
you
sir.
not?
I did.
If you saw things wrong with it in that first week before the final drafts come out, why didn't you communicate with me on all of what you just said that you had a problem with so we could get it fixed and there wouldn't be a delay tonight about some of those details that you just said that needed to be in there?
I'm sorry, Mr. Sneed. I saw the agenda 2 weeks ago. I didn't download the package until, I believe, last Friday, and I reviewed this
Okay.
over the weekend and
Right.
today.
Well, the statute, as it currently says, reads that the airport's authority is by TCA code, 425201. Is that not right?
Are you at, I'm sorry, you're in section 201?
In the current city ordinance,
I'm sorry, I thought you said the code.
the first statute that's mentioned, the first statute in the city ordinance at 2-507, purchase and disposal of personal property and equipment. And it talks about all the authority vested to the board by code 425201. And if you look at that, that is the authority from the state to the city. Is that not correct?
No, sir, 201 deals specifically with the joint board and what authorities are delegated to that, can be delegated to that joint board.
The limitations on the board are subject to code, TCA code 425204. Is that not correct?
They are, those are the
Okay.
limitations.
Now,
But Mr.
this is
Sneed,
425204.
okay,
It doesn't say anything in here, this is the limitations on their authority. It doesn't say anything about signing multi-million-dollar contracts, but it does talk about, it has to be specified in our ordinance. And if you look at our ordinance right now, the only thing that they're authorized to do is deal with surplus equipment and signing contracts. And that's, and your letter that I told you was wrong, that I disagreed with, that you went through your interpretation about how you tied all this together, after they had signed contracts, but we haven't approved their budget, but you said it was okay, but we hadn't approved their budget, but they had signed contracts, but we hadn't approved their budget, but you said that was okay. Now, you lost confidence, your credibility with me when you said that was what they had done was okay, because we didn't approve their budget, which is required. So when you told us it was okay, and it was within their authority, I had a problem with that. Now you're telling me that these things that I've looked over and put together and tried to tie together are all messed up.
Mr. Sneed, can I go back to what you just asked Ms. Barty? You said you had sent it 2 weeks ago. This email was sent on March 12th. Did you send it to her personally?
Mayor, I sent this to
You sent it to Ms. Brickles?
Ms. Brickles.
Okay. On the 12th?
I believe that's right. I stand
Okay.
corrected. It was on the 12th.
Okay. Just want to put that on the record because that's here in our packet.
That
the
is
12th.
correct. So you get it, you had it for a week at the final draft.
Okay.
It took me longer to put it together. I'm still going over it. So, Ms. Barty, still, even though the final draft came out, and if you looked at this, when you did get it a week ago, you can still make changes to the agenda and what's in it up until the moment we pledge allegiance and start this meeting. We've just been a practice that we didn't, but if there was that many problems with it, with all the lawsuit and things going on, I would appreciate that you had looked over these things prior to getting this meeting started. Now, if there's issues with the language changing city to all county, seems like there's a lot of people have a problem with that, but
Can we get back to questions from our aldermen?
Please.
then somebody can make an amendment to change the county verbiage back to city.
Okay. Mr. Hubbard, you want to say something?
I'm going to say this as calmly as I can. There's a lot of prejudiced language.
Objection. There's nothing prejudiced.
Hold up.
Objection. I'm not going to stand here and
Mr.
have him
Sneed.
tell me that I've got prejudice, and I'm prejudiced in how I wrote
Mr.
this. This is
Sneed.
doing more than anybody else on this board ever tries to do.
Mr. Sneed.
there is prejudice language, and that's the correct term. There was prejudice statements made about a good old boy system stacking up everything. There was changes that you recommend that we give up our power of having city representatives, okay? So, that falls up under my statement.
Okay.
And so I can't go along with you, okay?
We're going to move on to questions. Is there anyone that has any more questions for Mr. Sneed on this subject matter before we vote?
Who makes recommendation on who to put on the board? I mean, city appointments, where would that come from? I mean,
That can come
The
from,
it states that the recommendations may come from or it doesn't say shall, may come from the airport board to the governing authorities.
but it can come from basically anyone, right?
It could.
And we
So-
have in
Yes,
the
sir.
past.
So if there was say a pilot that lived in the city of Springfield that wanted to be on the board, somebody recommended him, he could be possibly on board, is that correct?
that's
Just
correct.
out of curiosity, how many of the pilots out there live inside the city limits of Springfield?
Okay. All right. Ms. Barty, did you want to say something else? Our city attorney.
Mr. Sneed had mentioned that perhaps I was confusing, so I just want to be specific and make sure that everyone understands what the term et-sec means, which is in sequence. And if you look at the sequence of 425201, that includes 425203, which is specifically omitted from Mr. Sneed's proposed changes. And that has 4 subsections that talks about the joint board. It'll create a joint board. It'll consist of members. It talks about that they'll be appointed and the length, how it will, each joint board will organize, select officers for terms to be fixed by the agreement and adopt and amend from time to time rules for its own procedure. And I think this is very important because this is how it exists today. The joint board has the power to plan, acquire, establish, develop, construct, enlarge, improve, maintain, equip, operate, regulate, protect, and police any airport or airport navigation facility or airport hazard or navigation easement to be jointly acquired, controlled, and operated, and such board may exercise on behalf of its constituent public agencies all the powers of each with respect to the airport, air navigation facility, airport hazard or navigation easement, subject to the limitations of 425204. So it's important, I think, and I want you all to be clear, that that's 425203D is very important to consider as you consider the 425204, which talks about the limitations that Mr. Sneed discussed. And based on our ordinance and what we've done in the past, I think that we are in compliance with the statute.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Well, that doesn't mean.
Ms.
that-
Barty.
I take exception to that,
Okay.
and she's ignoring the fact that statutes say that our ordinance has to specify what authority. You read all of those things that the state gives us that we could delegate, but that doesn't mean that it's been delegated to them. The only thing in our ordinance that's specified, that's required by state law, is dealing with surplus equipment and signing contracts.
Well, and Mr. Sneed, I would interpret 2-507, which mentions the personal property and equipment, but the first sentence of that section reads, "The Springfield Robertson County Joint Airport Board shall have all the authority vested unto said board by Tennessee Code annotated 42-5-201 et sec." And the et sec would include those powers that I just read from 425203.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barty. Any other questions to Mr. Sneed? No more questions to Mr. Sneed. Do you understand what you're voting on? Any questions on that?
Is anybody gonna make an amendment to change the county back to city? Or nobody wants to try to do anything with you? Everything's just perfectly fine right now with everybody.
Okay.
You're kidding.
Call the roll, please.
Harris,
No.
Schneider,
No.
Hubbard,
No.
Trotter,
No.
Sneed,
Yes.
Gregg,
No.
Head,
No.
fails 6-1.
Thank you. 3.12, discuss and possible take action on the request from Alderman Sneed regarding the removal or the recall of certain members of the Springfield-Robertson County Joint Airport Board. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? It dies for a lack of second. Moving on to the consent doc.
Move for approval of the entire consent doc.
Second.
Okay? Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Gregg,
Aye.
pass 7-0.
Thank you. Our city manager's report, Ms. Gina Holt.
I'll be very brief tonight. Alderman Harris pointed this out, and I just want to make everybody aware. If you receive something like this on your front door or somewhere on your house, it looks very official. It says environmental water testing. It is not from the City of Springfield water system. It is a sales tactic. It says free water testing. They will test your water for free, but then they're going to call you. It says at the bottom, you have to provide your name and phone number. They will call you, and then they will try to sell you a service. So people have been asking questions. I know they went out in Mr. Harris's neighborhood yesterday, I think it was, and I'm sure they will be showing up at different locations. So be forewarned, this yellow, very yellow flyer is not anything official. It's a sales pitch. So please be aware of that. And the only other thing I have is just a reminder, next Thursday, the 28th, is our first bicentennial kickoff event at the Springfield Middle School. And we've talked about it quite a bit, but it should be a good event at 7 o'clock. So I hope you all come out for that.
Question, Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Head.
Do we have a vacancy on the airport board?
Mr. Marvin Smith has said he does want to come off. Talked to him last month, so it's official, so he will be off, and he is a city appointee.
Okay. So how do we get a replacement?
Well, the airport board will meet in April, and they have one recommendation. They actually have a city and a county recommendation. One is for the city is Mr. Lewis Walling. The county recommendation, if anyone goes off, was Mr. Jeff Hardy. So as it stands right now, that's probably what will be on their agenda.
Okay, if we have a nomination, can we replace it? Can that be?
Because then it would have to come back
That
for
could be
you all
that.
to approve anyway at the April meeting. So this board will approve their recommendation in April or not.
Okay. Or we may have another.
You could have another one, but you'd have to make it official before we don't meet again, before their April meeting.
I'm not understanding.
You don't, you'd have to vote on it, and you will not be meeting before the April airport board meeting, which is, I
Okay.
think, April 10th.
I mean, that's fine. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Okay.
Mr. Harris had a question?
I mean, in asking, I have two questions, but in following what Alderman Head said, if the airport board comes to us in April with a recommendation, we choose not to honor or to vote that recommendation, do we have the right at that point to make a nomination from this body?
I think so.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And then my next question, is there anything, are we looking at anything in April about budget meetings or anything as of yet?
No. The budget will be presented to you the end of April. Then we will have the work session probably around the second week of May, and then we'll have our regular meeting in May, which will be the first reading on the budget. Then we will have 2 meetings in June.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.